So thank you for joining this webinar or requesting a copy of it for those of you that can't attend. My name is Trish. I've been working with Tourwriter for 5 years and I've been using both Tourwriter and Minim. So this webinar today will go through how to get the best out of your Tourwriter itineraries by taking them online with Minim. Today we'll cover setting up Tourwriter to work with Minim, image sizes and how they can be a bit richer, updating your existing data to display beautifully when online, and mapping your Tourwriter data to online. Ultimately, the aim is to give you a small taste of what taking your itineraries online could do for your business. And for this webinar, we would presume that you have Minim, maybe have a little bit of knowledge of Minim, but you maybe haven't used it much or are not sure about how to get the best out of it. I won't be going over using Minim in any detail. This webinar is solely about making sure that you, what you have set up in Tourwriter will work for you in Minim. And of course, if you do not have an account that includes Minim, want one, please do reach out to your customer success executive after the webinar for more information on this. If you do have a question throughout the webinar, please just add it into the QA section, and I'll answer questions towards the end of the webinar. Thank you. So first of all, we'll have a look at setting up Tourwriter to work with Minim. The very first thing you'll need to ensure is that all users have a contact card allocated to them under the Tools, Setup and User Accounts area. So if we have a look at my name, if I click on Contact Details, I already have a card enabled. If we choose another name, there is no card set up for Thomas. So at this point, you have the option to update and create a card now. I'm going to say no, because that's obviously up to him to add that, but you do get that option to add a card at that stage. So each Tourwriter user that will be using Minim should have a corresponding contact card created. If this is not done, when pushing an itinerary to Minim, you will get an error message, which is like this. So as it says here, it's a very vague message. Collaborators' last name should not be shorter than 1 character. Basically means you haven't got a contact card, you haven't put the correct details in the contact card. And on the contact card, all that you need is your name, phone number and an email on there. So that's really essential. Let's now think about how you have been using Tourwriter. I'll just close that down. So we'll think about how you've been using Tourwriter. You may have spent some time getting your Tourwriter itinerary customized just the way you want it to look. And Tourwriter allows for that. Minim simplifies the way you work. It essentially lightens the load. So you need to understand what you have in Tourwriter that will work in Minim or what won't, and therefore what changes are required. An example of one of these fairly common customizations is if you are using square brackets. So this is or can be coded in Tourwriter so the itinerary doesn't show anything inside those brackets. You might be using a dash or a slash or a star or something similar, but square brackets is very common. So the square brackets or similar allows you to see certain data that your customer doesn't. But how does it show in Minim? So we'll first look at some examples. We'll have a look at the Sofitel, Queenstown, and you'll see under one of these room types that we've got information in square brackets under the pricing option. Under the, in the Pullman Auckland, we've actually got the square brackets are under the service. So it doesn't matter whether it's one or the other. This is information that you may want to see so that you choose the right accommodation for your customer, but you don't really want the customer to see it, although this isn't maybe, you know, bad information for them to see, but it's your information you want to hide from your customer. When we have both of these added into an itinerary and pushed to minimum, excuse me a sec. So when you have these added in an itinerary and pushed to minimum, you will see that the proposal, I'll just go to, whoops, an itinerary in minimum. So if we have a look here, you will see that this is a proposal itinerary, and the square brackets don't appear anywhere. So it does show when it's under the service, it is showing, but when it's the pricing option, it's not showing. So you can sort of see some of your information showing. If we look at this one, it's not showing because it's under the pricing option. But when we go to the final itinerary, you will see that it does show. You see it showing here, and we go to the one down here. Again, it's showing in here. And that may not be ideal, obviously. And especially with square brackets, I mean, normal brackets are fine, but double brackets are a little bit strange. So how can we resolve this? So if you want to use the final itinerary, especially, or the proposal for in the case of if you've got those in your those square brackets in your service, if you want to use the final itinerary, you will either need to remove or modify the text in Tourwriter. Just updating the item description in here doesn't work. The alternative, of course, is to have our edit publishing functionality enabled. The edit publishing functionality lets you review and amend your content before pushing it to minimum. Edit publishing will need to be enabled in Tourwriter, so please reach out to me if you'd like this feature, or your customer success executive. There is no cost to enable edit publishing. However, there is a cost if you would like your, your Tourwriter reports, the RDLC itinerary reports, to be updated to accept text that has been edited in this way. So let's just have a look at how that works. We do right-click, edit publishing content, and in here we'll unlock this, and we can just remove the square brackets and lock that. We'll come to this one, and if we do the same here and we lock that and close and save, what is actually going to happen when we push it to minimum is that in the proposal, first of all, we'll have a look. It won't be showing in here, but also in the final, those square brackets will not appear. So the edit publishing works with minimum really well in that way. Now, more details can also be found on the knowledge base. Just see if I can bring that up for you if we have a look. So the edit publishing, so all you need to do is in the search field, just put in edit publishing, and there's a lot more information on it here for you to have a look through. While we are looking at this one here, and this is the edited option that I was just showing you, you can see how services are grouped together. Now in Tourwriter, that is happening because you've got the booking ID is the same. What we can do is ungroup these by moving the booking to, and creating a new booking ID. And once you have done that, what will happen is that they will be showing separately, line by line in this way. So here's your superior room, here's your breakfast, whereas the previous version, they were grouped together in both of them. There are also things in Tourwriter, things that you might do in Tourwriter that Minim is going to show in a different way. In Tourwriter, maybe it's already sort of obvious that you read you run your itinerary and you look at it and you go, oh, I've made an error. I've got the dates wrong. It's quite obvious and it's immediate that you can see what you've done. And so all you do, oh, I've changed the dates here incorrectly. And all you need to do is obviously amend that to the correct dates, whatever it is, and then that will resolve that situation and the dates will be updated. You just refresh your itinerary. But how this affects Minim if you did something like that, and I think we'll just go back to this first one. If we go to itineraries, and if we just choose itinerary and then we go to build, what actually happens is that in the build area here, you only see the one date. So we actually have to update the dates in Tourwriter, re-push the itinerary through, and then all of your dates will appear. And not sure whether one of these, no, they're all the same. I'll re-push that and I'll show you how this will work. So I've changed the date in here, so we'll save that. And I will now push to online. We'll just update. And I was going to say as well that having just the one date showing in Minim is not really an issue. It will still show the itinerary. It will still show all the details on the day-by-day itinerary. It's just if you want to look at the itinerary and the build of it, it's only going to show the one date. So what we're going to be talking about next is about reordering dates. And just look at, all right, so I'm back in the same itinerary. I'll go back to itineraries. I think it was this one. I'm going to try to remember now. Here we go. So you can see now in the build area here that it's now showing all dates because we've amended that into Tourwriter. So just a few things to sort of keep in mind, you know, if you're sitting there and going, why is it only showing one date? This is ridiculous. What's going on? It's always go back to Tourwriter, have a look, adjust it and re-push and it will resolve itself. So this brings me into about reordering items in Tourwriter. Maybe you were using the custom sort. So the custom sort is you go to tools and you activate your custom sort, and you get a grid in here and you can order them into the dates and times that you want. So without actually having to use a time. And that's especially handy for a really, big itinerary. Now, if you're not using that already, just check it out on the knowledge base. Just type in custom sort and you'll get all the information about it. So with custom sort, it will not work with minim. You will need to do one of two things, or both two things, you can do either, but you'll need to do one or two things to put your services in the right order. And the first one, of course, is to have them all ordered with times. So you can see I've got a start time and another time here for two things that are on the same date. So because I've got the dates on there, they will push through into the right order. But you can also sort them in minim. So if we go back to this itinerary here, and this is why I went to the itineraries page and then I clicked on build, is because in here you have the option to reorder things if you haven't got them in time order. All right, those that are grayed out are that their start date is on another date. So the accommodation starts on the 7th. So you can't move it around for any, you can only move it here, but there's nothing else to move it with. When you have moved things around, you'll get this little icon appearing here. And you can see as I hover, it says items have been reordered. So when ordering or sorting in minim, if you repush your itinerary again, you will need to reorder them again. It will just go back to the original order. So I recommend that you do this when you are happy that this is the version that you wish to send out to your customer, especially if it's a long itinerary. You only really want to reorder it the one time. If it's a short itinerary, reordering is not such a big issue. The next thing I wanted to talk about is to do with images. We'll just come back to this one here. So we just want to now talk about images. So you're using images in Tourwriter, and the question might be, will they work with minim? Yes, they will, but we can make things a little bit better. So it's going to show you in here, of course, in the supplier, under the additional tab, under your publishing, you have reports image and an online image. So this one is for Tourwriter. This is for minim, of course. And this allows you to attach two different images in here for either Tourwriter or minim use. Tourwriter has specific sizes and they would have all been obviously advised to you, and generally we work with something like a 96 dpi resolution. Minim will accept larger quality images. In fact, it needs larger quality images. So that will mean a bit of a rework of your current images. And I've added, I'll just go to this, and I've got the sizes on here for you to have a bit of a look over. But before you're sort of scrambling to take down notes of all the details, I will add this for you in a follow-up email. So, but you can see here that the logo, you can have it as a JPEG or a PNG. Tourwriter does not accept PNG. and here's your pixel size, hero images or a cover image. You've got the size here, and other images are shown here. Most importantly, it can be up to 300 dpi. Adding a smaller or larger image, it will resize the image. Now with Tourwriter, if the image is the wrong size, say you're taking a panorama image and you want to put it into Tourwriter into a smaller area, it's going to squash that image or it will stretch it. What Minim does is it resizes the image, sort of almost, yeah, just sort of goes and it crops it off a little bit on the side to fit. And it's not really so much that it's fitting, it's just only a portion of it is being viewed. The image will rescale to a certain width, and this is done so that it loads the images faster. What you can do if you've got really specific requirements, you can share to support an image that you wish to add. We can provide the image that the size will be cropped to in Minim. So that will help you with your sizing and making sure that you've got the bulk of your image within the middle of the image rather than at the side. And a bit of a tip, you may want to save your images for Minim in an obvious way. So if an image in Tourwriter is named New Zealand, then your image for Minim may be named New Zealand-online. And why I say online is because it attaches in the online image field here. So as you can see, compared to the sizes used for image, these images are larger and richer when viewed. So if we have a look, oops, we'll get rid of that. We have a look on here. This is a larger DPI image. It's quite crisp and clear. This one, you just want to sit down and eat this one. It's a really nice clear image. This is very good as well. If we look at another itinerary that I've got here. Oops, we'll go to proposal. Got to find the image. Here we go. We'll add this image in. So this one here is an image that has come from, it's a Tourwriter image. It's 96 dpi, and you can see how it's quite soft, and it's not ideal. You want nice, sharp images for your customers viewing. We're going to have go back to Tourwriter, and we're going to have a little bit of a look at mapping to Tourwriter, because this is one thing that a lot of people sort of go, oh, I've got to set up all this information and it's a bit tedious, and how do I do it? So we're going to look at the tools and push itinerary to Minim page. Excuse me. Right, so as part of the Tourwriter to Minim integration, you need to map Tourwriter fields with Minim fields in the content rules and settings fields. Only once you configure the mappings can you push an itinerary and subsequently repush a previously pushed itinerary in Minim. The mappings will include 3 subtabs: content rules. So we'll click in here. So the content rules setup allows you to define exactly which publishing content is pushed to Minim. You can create numerous templates, so we'll create another one. So we'll just add that in here, and you can call it whatever you want. We'll just call it proposal. And obviously you can set which is your default. So under your rule templates, it's basically just add as you need. It's very, very simple. On the right side, you click on the plus and you are able now to load any of your service types. You can then, so you can add in here, now there's this content type is not allowed, it's grayed out at the moment, or not grayed out, but it's, if we come back here, you'll see how that's grayed out, and I'll tell you why this happens in a moment. But if we, what you would normally be able to do is actually, you'll have a drop down field here and you can choose your content type. So see in here, we've got description proposal is the content type. So you can then assign whether you want your publishing notes, your quick notes, to appear before or after your publishing. So the sort order we've got here. So voucher notes we won't worry about for the moment. The sort order, what this field allows for is for additional content of the same type to be ordered. So if, for example, you'd like to publish both a supplier level and service level description for accommodation, you can show one as number 1 and one as number 2. So it's the order that they will appear. And only those content types that you have mapped in your content rules setup area will appear on the client's itinerary. So if you haven't mapped a flight and you push an itinerary with a flight, it will not show the flight on the minimum itinerary. So if you're ever looking at it and going, three things here that are not showing, go back to your mappings and have a look at what you've done. If it's not mapped, map it and then it will work. Now let's just cancel out of here. We won't save that. So we'll just come back to the upload itinerary to minimum screen. And what you would be able to do is, once you've set up your various contents, you would be able to choose which content rule. Your default will display, but if you want a different one to appear, maybe you want to have one in a different language. So you want to display your English one and then maybe do a French one. You could have them set up in English and French, and then you just download your French one to display that language. Let's look at the settings tab, and under settings, you will see that we've got service types, publishing types, and status types. Firstly, if you are using the edit publishing functionality as previously mentioned, you will see the publishing types tab on this screen. If you're not using edit publishing, you will only have service types and status types on this screen here. Once you've mapped your publishing types, that will cause the graying out of the content rules that I showed you before. So just keep in mind, yeah, you'll either be seeing 2 fields or you'll be seeing 3, depending on what you're using. So the service types field, or the sub-tab, here is where you need to map your local service types to the remote types categories in Minim. So local type is Tourwriter, remote type is Minim. And Minim has more defined local options than Tourwriter does. This means that you'll be telling Tourwriter which category to display your information in. So for example, if you have a com general service type, you're going to be mapping it to accommodation. It's the only type that you would be able to use for accommodation. So you may have had several accommodation type services in Tourwriter, and they may be because one shows the wording bed and breakfast, one shows the wording farm stay, one shows the wording accommodation. And that's how Tourwriter works. However, in Minim, it works with various icons, and these types will trigger a specific icon that matches. So I'll just get out of here for a moment, and I'll just show you what I mean. So here's the icons. So it's just indicating that that is accommodation, indicating that this is a meal, and this is an activity, and so on. Right, let's go back to the push itinerary to online and back to settings. So all you're doing is just mapping to the remote type as to what you want to have it appear as. So bike, bicycle, so on. You'll see all of these. Cruise would be a tour, and so on. Right, publishing types. So again, what the publishing types allows you to do is to map fields when using the edit publishing function. We won't be going through this in great detail because it's quite tricky. However, as mentioned previously, what the edit publishing functionality lets you do is to review your publishing content before you push it to Minim. This therefore requires mapping for the edited fields. Personally, due to that graying out issue in the content rules, I set everything else up and then do the publishing types last. Or if you have done the publishing types and then you need to update the content types again, you'll need to remove the publishing types, which is a bit frustrating, but you'll need to remove them and redo them again afterwards. Or after you've edited the other one that you needed to. So a bit of a tip, take a screenshot of what you've done before moving them, before removing them, sorry, not moving them, removing them. So these mappings can be a little bit tricky to interpret, but generally the edited booking name is mapped to the supplier name and so on. So everything in here is an edited something that has to be mapped to Minim. So they can be a little tricky to interpret, and if you are going to be getting edit publishing enabled and using this, I can send you a screenshot of this. Or another way to look at it is that after this webinar, I'll be sending out a copy of this recording of this webinar. So you can just replay and pause at this screen. So don't even probably need my involvement, but yeah, it's all there as to some of the ideal publishings that are there. And I'll even just stretch that out for easier viewing. Right, status types. You'll also need to map your local itinerary status in Tourwriter to the remote status in Minim. So local or itinerary status describes the overall status of an itinerary at any one point in time. For example, quotation, confirmed, quotation, or confirmed, finalised, and so on. And you can just use the drop down. Again, because of these, it's not allowing me to amend this. So it's to do with that publishing type. So you would amend this before you do your publishing types. But your publishing, so your status types in here, you can see that I've mapped like confirmed, awaiting deposit to final, waiting file, finalised. They're all mapped to final, and you've got proposal and final. Not everything would be mapped. They don't need to be. Package is used in Tourwriter solely, so it doesn't get mapped to Minim at all. There's no need for that. You will also find in the remote status here, you'll have accepted, final, or proposal. So they're showing there. And when you see accepted, that's sort of similar to final. It's maybe, not fully paid is probably more the point. So you may only want to use proposal and final. So that's really up to you. Right, the last thing on this screen is the API user key. So when signing up to Minim, you'll have been provided with your unique API user key. You will need to copy and paste this into the line at the top of the window, ensuring that there are no extra spaces at the end of the key. So maybe you've forgotten where this is. We'll just get out of here again. Get your API key. You'll log into Minim if you're not already. Go to this profile area here. You won't see as many people under here. Oops, so I just want to go here. Oops, that's not actually showing them for me. Okay, so that's something that is not actually showing. No, actually, I'm actually wrong. Sorry, I've just got a little bit of a forgotten where I was then. I am Success Travel. You won't see all of these here, but if we go to profile, sorry, that's my bad. I haven't done this for probably a little while. You'll see under here a classic key. Don't know why it's just got the word classic there, but so that key, you just copy that, and once it's copied, you go back to Tourwriter, push itinerary to online, and under your settings, this is where you add it. I won't add this in here because I've already got this set up, but you just click in there, copy it, you just paste it in, and then save, and that will then be set up. You'll only need to do it once, of course, but it's just the very first time. You may have already done that and had that set up. And each user in Minim should load their own API key, so they get their own unique information coming through. Right, a few extra little things about the upload itinerary to Minim screen. Refresh all images. When this option is ticked, all images will be refreshed, even if they have already been uploaded. Just untick it if you would like to, not refresh your images. Fetch geolocation data. This should always be ticked so that it plots the right place on the map for accommodation in Minim. And by the map, I mean, let's go to an itinerary, and you've got all the maps in here. So let's go back to the push itinerary. So it plots the right place on the map in Minim. But incidentally, and I know this does happen for some people, if you work with remote locations that have no specific address, and this is quite common in some Pacific islands in Africa, for example, as well. If they have no specific address, the geolocation may map it to what we call Null Island. Well, not what we call it, but what is called Null Island, which is basically the middle of nowhere. It refers to a point on the Earth's surface where the prime meridian and the equator intersect at 0 degrees latitude and 0 degrees longitude. So it's basically saying, I can't map it, I don't know where it is, I'll take it to Null Island. There is a way to update coordinates in Tourwriter to assist with this mapping of locations. I won't go through it now because it doesn't relate to everybody. But if it is something you need assistance with, then please reach out either to your customer support executive or support@tourwriter.com. Right, creating a new online version. This option creates a new version of the itinerary in Minim. It will be automatically ticked and grayed out if the itinerary has not been pushed to the online platform yet. If you are updating an existing itinerary, this option will be unticked. So the existing itinerary on the online platform will be updated. Just basically means you're just overwriting the existing one that you've got in Minim. If you did want to create a new one, then you would just tick the online version. I do remember though that if you are looking in Minim at your itineraries, if you've sent them the same one over and over, you just get them repeating in this way. So you can see some of my ones that I've sent. Yeah, they're just sort of been sent over and over. So you can lose a bit of track as to which ones you were just last working on. So yeah, just overwriting the first one is probably preferable. Right, we've got output. So when you upload, when you click on upload, it is a passive field, but what it does is it will just run through a series of systems and it will let you know what is happening with the upload. You'll see the stages of it and you'll see when it's complete, and Minim will just open. Open online. This feature allows you to open the itinerary in your browser. If you're already logged into the online platform, you'll be taken directly to the itinerary page. So if you'd like to see the updated version, though, just wait for the upload to finish before opening. Lastly, so what are the benefits in using Minim? Firstly, you have an image-rich itinerary which you can share with your customers. You can create breathtaking itineraries and collaborate directly with your agents or travellers. Minim is lightweight, so it's easy to use. Literally, it's like Tourwriter in a way. It's quite intuitive. Just click and discover. But the main thing is that your customers love flexibility. You'll be able to offer them fully responsive, mobile optimized itineraries available anywhere, anytime. So I just travelled recently and all my information for my trip was on my mobile, no paper. So I've only showed you the basics today to allow you to bring your itineraries online. Therefore, the itinerary I showed you was not very exciting. So let's maybe look at another one, and we'll also have a look at what the PDF looks like. So we will look at, which one? We'll go back to itineraries and we'll go back to the two fine cities, and you'll see how got a lovely cover image here, and you'll see how through the use of changing some of the colours on the template here, and that's very simply in here and under themes. So we've got different themes that can, so I've got that one enabled here. So let's go back to that itinerary. Right, so we've got, yeah, so you've got your colorings are all quite different, and it's actually really handy for people that maybe do work with different countries or different seasons. You could, change, if it's, they're traveling in winter, you could have a blue theme, and if it's summer, it could be a nice green theme, or yellow or something like that. So you could change those themes as you need to. So you can see how it's really lovely, very image rich. And this is what I mean about having the center of your image, your focus. So if that edges are cut off due to the resizing, the focus is still on what you want it to see. So again, lovely images. We'll have a look at the final. It looks a little bit different. So you can see larger images in here. Go back up so you can see all of your information in here, your start times, end times, all showing in here as well. And how does the PDF, so that's when you export and you export it as a PDF. How does that look? So here's the 2 fine cities that we were just looking at. We've got, your details about you, your email and so on, your logos, maps. Got an outline or an overview of day by day what you're doing, and this almost works as an itinerary on its own. So if we scroll through and have a look, you'll see that we've now got our day by day itinerary with lovely images and really detailed information showing in here. And this can all be viewed on your customer's mobile. So pretty amazing. So in a nutshell, your itinerary proposals in Minim will take your pre-sales game to a whole new level. And who wouldn't want to head off on their travels, like I did, my mobile and all that, but with such an amazing final itinerary, again, on your mobile. So that brings me to the end of the webinar for today. Thank you so much for attending, those that did. I know not everybody could, so you will get the opportunity to view this at your leisure. Thank you very much.